Number 5 on the timeline, number 1 in our hearts. Today we cover the film that kickstarted it all, The Conjuring, 2013. Hey y'all, welcome to The Real Value, where we recap, review, rate, and evaluate all things real, all things watched. I'm Cal, your horror pal, and today we go back to the beginning, of the franchise at least, as we delve into 2013's The Conjuring. The Conjuring is a supernatural horror film directed by James Wan, known for Saw, Insidious, and this right here old franchise, and was written by twin brothers Chad and Carrie Hayes, both of which also co-wrote 2005's House of Wax and 2007's The Reaping. The Conjuring features Ed and Lorraine Warren, two real-life paranormal investigators and authors associated with prominent cases of haunting. Their purportedly real-life reports inspired the Amityville Horror, of which this movie shares various themes with. The Conjuring stars Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, Ron Livingston, and Lily Taylor. The cinematographer, John R. Leonetti, went on to direct Annabelle the next year. Just thought that was interesting. They keep it all in the family. The Conjuring has a runtime of 112 minutes and made an astonishing $319 million off of a $20 million budget. Remember, this was the first one in the series, so no one knew what it was connected to, or what it was going to be connected to, or how big it was going to be. But this is when the studio realized, oh shit, horror can be profitable again. The critics also like this inaugural entry into the series a little bit more compared to some of the others we've covered thus far. On Rotten Tomatoes, it scores an 86% on their tomato meter and an 83% on their popcorn meter. Letterboxd has it at a 3.6 out of 5. IMDb has it at a 7.5 out of 10. And on Metacritic's user score, it holds strong at 7.8 out of 10. But what's the real value of the flick? Stay tuned through the end of this video to find out. The premise of The Conjuring follows the classic trope of a house haunting, but adds more story and layers to the mix that make it, in my humble opinion, a tad different from others in the genre. It's not necessarily what they do in this film that makes it unique, but how they do it. So without further ado, let's get to our real telling of 2013's The Conjuring. Needless to say, but spoilers start now. We open on a couple of adults talking about our now famous Annabelle doll. Sound familiar? It should if you've seen my real telling over Annabelle in Annabelle. Watch, like, subscribe. Anyways, they continue with their tale of woe concerning the Annabelle doll. Our screen shows us the Annabelle case year is 1968. Ed and Lorraine Warren continue to question them about the doll. They say that they learned through a medium that a little girl named Annabelle Higgins died in this apartment. An obvious lie or misunderstanding by that medium they used, because we know the truth, especially if you've seen my real telling over Annabelle's creation in Annabelle Creation. Watch, like, subscribe. Long story short, they gave Annabelle, permission to inhabit the doll, which is when things began to get worse. Ed's like, you fucking did what now? We're then shown the havoc that's been wreaked on the two nurses' apartment, and then we see Annabelle holding a red crayon, the weapon, so to speak. In retaliation, we see Debbie, one of the girls, throw the doll out into the trash. Then one night, that night, the next night, there's loud banging at their apartment door. They answer the door, and lo and behold, a note is at their feet saying, "Miss me?" The same note they found the other day when they walked in and saw Annabelle sitting in the hall. Loud banging continues until they open their hallway door to see Annabelle there, returned and waiting for them. Back to the nurses talking to Ed and Lorraine. Ed and Lorraine tell the group that an inhuman spirit tricked them into letting it infest their lives. They ask what an inhuman spirit is. They say, unlike a ghost, it's something that's never walked the earth in human form. It's something demonic. They reiterate what we already know, that our demon Malthus never possessed the doll himself, but used it as a conduit for its gains, and that its ultimate goal was to possess one of them. This is different from Annabelle and Annabelle Creation, in which the goal was a victim's soul. Cut to a classroom where Ed and Lorraine are giving a course over their findings. When asked by an audience member, "What are you guys?" Ed and Lorraine reply, "Some call us demonologists, some call us kooks." But that we simply want to be known as Ed and Lorraine Warren. Cut to text scrolling over a black screen talking about Ed and Lorraine being known as the world's most renowned paranormal investigators since the 60s. That Lorraine is a gifted clairvoyant and Ed is the only non-ordained demonologist recognized by the Catholic Church. It continues to say that out of the thousands of cases throughout their career, only one case was so malevolent that they kept it locked away until now. Based on a true story, dun dun dun! Title card, The Conjuring. We open on a window, zoom in, and we see a car pulling up to a house. We get the date and location. Harrisville, Rhode Island, 1971. A family is followed by a moving truck. They've arrived at their new home. The family is huge. There's mom, dad, and 5 girls, one of which is not too happy about moving. We see that their family dog, Sadie, does not want to enter the new house. The family is shown moving into the huge house. One of the kids goes outside to hang her wind chime when we see April, their youngest girl, by what will come to be known as the Conjuring tree, looking at a suspicious little toy. Cut to the girls playing an interesting form of hide and go seek mixed with a kind of Marco Polo but with clapping called hide and clap. This leads the finder, daughter Christine, into one of the downstairs closets where another daughter is hiding. She says clap. When she lunges towards her, the girls back into the wall and break a panel where they find a boarded up cellar. Roger, the dad, checks it out. There's your usual spider webs and just a load of antiques and garbage, presumably left by the previous tenants. We feel an ominous presence as audience members. Dad warns the girls not to go down there as there's tons of spiders. He then says, okay, time for bed. Sadie, the dog, continues to bark outside because there's clearly something fucking wrong with the house. But mom and dad, Carolyn and Roger, just hug and kiss and talk about christening the new house because they're just so in love. Blah! The next morning, mom wakes up to find a mysterious bruise on one of her legs. Carolyn notices the closet door that they found the cellar in is open. She goes down to see Roger screwing in a light bulb. They marvel at all the things in the cellar. They talk about how it's freezing, and Roger says he'll try to get the furnace working. Mom notices that both the clock in the hallway and in the kitchen stopped at the same time, 3:07 a.m. At this point, the youngest daughter, April, then goes to find Sadie outside and we hear a scream. Good omen, I'm sure. Sadie did not make it through the night, having been mysteriously unalived. Back in Monroe, Connecticut, we see the Warrens' home. Ed leads a reporter through their locked-away demon room full of artifacts from previous cases, citing that nothing is a toy, not even the toy monkey, and not to touch anything. Ed says it's safer to keep all these things locked away in one room. When the reporter asks why not just destroy them all, Ed replies that that would only destroy the vessel, and that sometimes it's better to keep the genie in the bottle. The reporter then asks about the Annabelle doll, and we see her locked away. It's here that the reporter then brings up some mysterious circumstance that happened to Lorraine Warren during an exorcism, but it's very vague. Ed then notices his own daughter snooping around the room, so escorts her out. Later, Lorraine asks how it went with the reporter. Ed looks at Lorraine with worry. Lorraine says, "Stop blaming yourself." It's a very cryptic moment. Obviously, they're talking about whatever happened during Lorraine during that exorcism. I'm sure we'll find out more later. Back at the Perrone, the family's last name, household, we see the grandfather clock stopping again at 3:07 a.m. We then see Christine asleep soundly until something tugs at her foot. Being half asleep, she blames it on her sister Nancy, who's asleep in her own bed. She then tells her to stop farting because it really stinks. Nancy denies having done it. Cut to a staticky television, which we see a lot of in these movies. Roger is asleep on his desk before a noise jolts him awake. The noise happens again, a kind of knocking going on. He then hears a door open somewhere in the house. He shuts off the TV and looks around, noticing one of the doors in the back opening on its own. He checks it out, but doesn't see anything but a window open. Then another knock. Roger runs into his daughter Andrea, who says that Cindy is sleepwalking again, and she's making that sound that Roger has been hearing. Cindy is in Andrea's room, banging her head lightly against an armoire. We see her doing this creepily. We are assured Cindy has never done this before, but she has sleptwalked before. Roger walks her back to bed. I'm sure of that, something will come up later. The next day, Roger and Carolyn talk about the sleepwalking incident when Roger notices another big-ass bruise on Carolyn's back shoulder. He tells her to go see a doctor for that. Roger leaves for work when he notices a bird fly into the cellar window and die. Another great omen, I'm sure. 4 of the 5 kids go off to school while their youngest stays in her room talking to an imaginary friend, Rory. Rory. R-O-R-Y. She tells her mom you can see him by using the peculiar toy she was messing with earlier by the Conjuring tree. You can see Rory in the toy's mirror after twisting the key on the music box and waiting till the end of the tune. In the toy's mirror's reflection, Carolyn sees the curtain move, which startles her a bit before April jump scares her from behind, scaring the shit out of her. April then asks her mom if they can play hide and clap. Carolyn agrees reluctantly. Mom asks for first clap, going through the house searching for her daughter. Second clap, she's still far away and mom ends up in Andrea's Andrea's room looking for April. We see the armoire open on its own. Mom says third clap. We then see two hands come forth from the armoire and clap. Mom says she can hear April breathing when we hear April coming from another room. This alarms Carolyn and she removes her blindfold, confused, as no one's in the armoire and April has now shown up behind her. That night, we see Christine again asleep soundly. Again, she's tugged by an unseen force. Again, she tells Nancy to stop. Then she's tugged hard and jolts awake, noticing Nancy asleep in her own bed. She gets up to look around the end of her bed. Nothing's there. She's confused and flustered. She builds up the courage to look over the side and under her bed when she sees nothing, but hears and starts to see their door open slightly. She starts to panic and she calls out to Nancy. Nancy asks what she's doing and asks if she's all right. Christine asks Nancy if she sees it, that there's someone standing over there behind the door and that it's looking right at us. Nancy gets up to check it out, but nothing's there, but remarks that it's that smell again. Christine says, "Oh my God, it's standing right behind you," before the door closes fast and hard on its own. Christine then screams. This wakes up Mom and Dad, who rush to their aid. Roger bursts through the door. Nancy is confused and just standing there. Christine assures them that it wasn't a dream and that it talked to her, saying it wants her family dead. Nancy's just standing there looking all confused as fuck, and I'm like, girl, say something. You saw the door close on its own. Roger hugs Christine. Cut to Carolyn in the bathroom, noticing another bruise on her arm. She takes some iron pills as we see another bruise above her chest. She looks worried. While folding laundry, she hears laughter, then clapping. She says, "Girls, it's way past your bedtime." But when she goes back to look, they're all asleep. She goes out to investigate and we can hear the clock tick, tick, ticking. We then hear a severely loud banging as all their family pictures that were hanging next to the staircase fall and break. But we hear a child's laughter and what sounds like running nearby. Carolyn continues to check it out as the clock chimes 3 times. She hears the clapping again. She yells, "Who is that?" Now sure, someone is in her house that shouldn't be. She's going from room to room to check it out, turning on lights along the way. She hears the closet door open that leads to the cellar and then the piano from below playing 3 eerie piano notes. She approaches with caution. It's dark, but she creeps down there. She turns on the light, takes a peek, and notices the light flying across the room. She presumes someone is down there and warns she's going to lock them in, but when she turns, the door closes on her face, knocking her back and down the stairs into the piano. She looks around the creepy-ass room, the stairs, the room, the stairs. Then someone or something throws a ball out into the middle of the room while the light bulb breaks, leaving her in darkness. She's screaming for the kids to let her out. She runs up the stairs. She comes across a pack of matches that Roger left down there from before. She lights one when all of a sudden, in the quiet, next to her face, we hear someone say, "Hey, wanna play hide and clap?" Then we see 2 hands extend from behind her and next to her face before scary as shit. She screams and rattles at the door. We're then shown Andrea in her room. It's Cindy again, sleepwalking and banging her head against the armoire. She attempts to walk her back to her own bed to get back to sleep. Then the armoire starts moving like she's still banging her head against it, but she's in bed now. Andrea approaches it slowly before we see Cindy raising up, fear on her face. The camera pans upward and both Cindy and Andrea see a monstrous figure on top of the armoire, smiling an evil grin. The thing pounces on Andrea. We're shown Roger getting home and hearing screaming before he drops his stuff and runs into the house. He gets Carolyn out of the closet, and then we see Andrea wrestling on the ground with nothing. Everyone is screaming and crying while Roger is like, "Someone tell me what the fuck is going on." We then flash back to Ed and Lorraine Warren teaching another class on demonology. They're showing footage of Maurice, aka Frenchie from The Nun, and The Nun 2. Watch, like, subscribe. It's a different actor, but it's the same character anyways. A student asks what happened to Maurice. Ed replies that he shot his wife, then turned the gun on himself. Aw, poor Frenchie. Ed says that not even an exorcism could bring him back. Fucking Valak. Watch, like, subscribe. Ed then talks about the 3 stages of demonic activity. 1, infestation, which are the noises, the whispering, the feelings of dread, the footsteps that one might hear. That grows into oppression, where the victim that's the most psychologically vulnerable is targeted by an external force and has their will crushed and beaten down. That then leads into the 3rd stage, possession. We then see Carolyn Perrone in the audience. Afterwards, one of Ed and Lorraine's students/helpers introduces Carolyn to them. She asks for their help, then begs for their help. Lorraine says of course they will. The two arrive at the Perron house, where we see that the family has moved into the living room all together, where they now sleep. They introduce themselves and immediately we can see Lorraine is startled. The kids also look tired as fuck. They mention it's gotten worse the past few nights. The two look around. Ed asks what that smell is, and Roger says it just comes and goes. Ed says that rancid smell could indicate demonic activity. Remember the farting? After that, they talk about the constant knocking, and they come in threes. Ed says that could be an insult to the Trinity. They then tell him about other stuff like the birds knocking into the windows and dying, the clock stopping at 3:07, etc., etc. They're then shown the armoire that was there when they moved in. Lorraine then goes down into the cellar and picks up a bunch of awful shiz psychically. Ed's like, fuck. When Ed asks them why they just haven't moved out, Roger's like, all their money is tied up in the house and they've nowhere else to go, which is why they track them down. Ed turns on a tape player to record Roger and Carolyn's story. In another room, Lorraine asks April about her friend Rory. She shows her the mysterious toy where Lorraine tries to see Rory. While looking in the mirror, she sees an apparition of a ghostly boy. Later, Lorraine goes down by the Conjuring tree to look around. Ed follows her and is like, what up? We hear a rope tightening. Next to Ed's head is the hanging body of a woman. Only Lorraine can see this. It makes her dizzy and she almost passes out. Ed and Lorraine ask Roger and Carolyn where they got the house from. They say the bank. They both feel that their house needs a cleaning, an exorcism. When Carolyn is like, we gotta get out of here, they explain it's not that easy. Lorraine has seen a dark entity latched to their backs since she's gotten there. Basically, it'll follow them wherever they go, and it's feeding off their energy. Lorraine says there's a lot of spirits in the house, but the one that's latched itself to them is the most disturbing because it is so hateful. Roger asks what they should do. They tell them they have to go to the church and get the church on board, which means gathering evidence and proof to show them. Cut to Judy, the Warrens' daughter, giving her mom, Lorraine, a gift. It's a locket with a picture of her for her mom, and then she also is wearing one with a picture of her parents inside. Later, when Ed and Lorraine are going over the tapes they recorded earlier, Ed shows Lorraine that for some mysterious reason, Carolyn's voice didn't record the whole time. They then go over the history of the house. Obligatory horror movie research montage. Only it's not a montage, it's just one scene. Lorraine tells Ed about the original owner, Judson Sherman, who married a woman named Bathsheba. Bathsheba was related to one of the women accused of witchcraft in Salem during the witchcraft trials. After Bathsheba and Judson had a baby, Judson caught Bathsheba attempting to sacrifice it. When caught, she ran out to the Conjuring tree, where she proclaimed her love for Satan, cursed anyone that tried to take her land away, and hung herself. What time was her death? 3:07 a.m. Lorraine then talks about another owner named Walker, whose boy, Rory, mysteriously disappeared in the woods, and then she killed herself in the cellar. Then she continues to talk about other tragedies that have befallen the area's original estate. Now all of a sudden, the recorder starts playing on its own, and they hear screaming and roars coming from it. They look at their clock. Oh, it's 3:07 a.m. Cut to the Perron's household, and Ed and Lorraine are arriving with their paranormal investigating crew. Along with a police officer named Hamilton, for whatever reason, we get a montage of them setting up their equipment throughout the house. Roger asks Ed if they've ever actually caught anything on film. Ed replies yes. Then they talk about the witch that committed suicide under the Conjuring tree. While inside, Lorraine and Carolyn are talking when Lorraine gets an insight of Carolyn and the family at the beach, just having the most happy time ever because of good times and love and blah! Later, Ed and Adam, the paranormal investigator, are listening to their microphones across the room. Ed then pulls out his religious icons, including holy water, because it pisses off the demons. The door to the cellar opens again and we hear the bell ring and see a camera take a picture. Ed and Lorraine, with their equipment, are going down to the cellar with the officer to check it out. They ask for a sign of communication. Silence. Lorraine then looks like she's going to be sick, but nothing. Silence. Then the door slams. The next day, everyone's eating breakfast and having such a good time. While outside helping out with the laundry, a storm starts to brew, and Lorraine sees a figure appear in one of the sheets and then fly up to the window where another figure is seen. We then see a bruise in the shape of a hand grab Carolyn while she's sleeping, and then the witch Bathsheba possesses her by throwing up in her mouth, so yummy. While she's changing, Lorraine checks on her, but Carolyn assures her she's just feeling a little nauseous. Roger and the girls and Peeps arrive back home, and Roger notices Ed fixing the Chevy. Roger then tells Ed it means a lot to them that they're there. Ed says the credit goes all to Lorraine, and that he himself didn't want to come out because of the toll it takes on Lorraine each time, each case. A couple months ago, okay, so this is where the whole skeptical unknown secret thing that they've been alluding to throughout the movie comes into play. It says a couple months ago that she saw something while exercising Maurice, that she went home afterwards and locked herself in a room for 8 days. She didn't eat or talk to anyone. Roger asks Ed what she saw, but he replies, "I don't know, and I won't ask." I'm sure we'll find out during one of these movies though. Later that night, everyone is tired and sitting around waiting for something to happen. As the officer gets some more coffee, he sees something outside the window, but it's just a rocking chair rocking away. And then he hears someone say, "Look what she made me do." He checks out the porch, nothing. He goes back inside and sees a ghost with slit wrists say again, "Look what she made me do," before jump scaring him and screaming the same phrase. Then we see Cindy sleepwalking by a camera, causing the cameras to flash. Ed says somebody's with her before she's locked inside a room when the door slams shut behind her. We then hear a whisper say, "Hey, over here, it's safe." And then, "Follow me, this way, this is where I hide." Obviously, it's the ghost Rory. Ed and Roger break into the room. They look everywhere but can't find her. They grab the UV light to track her footprints that lead into the armoire. There's a secret passageway in the back that leads to a secret space in the walls. There, Cindy is asleep. Roger retrieves her and puts her to bed. Then April says, "That's where Rory hides when he's afraid." We then see Lorraine crawl into that space. We see a few toys and such. She then asks for Cindy's music box where it fits in a space on the shelf. Then she finds a noose. She gets up to stand, but falls through the boards and through the house and into the cellar. Ed rushes around the house to find her where she's landed. Duh, the cellar. While down there, she starts to hear voices, crying, laughter. Then the music box starts. She rewinds it and looks into the mirror where in the reflection she sees an apparition of a ghost mom holding a knife over her son, which is pretty freaky. And then the apparition says, "She made me do it." Then we hear a rope swinging. The she is obviously Bathsheba, the witch, who we then see hanging in front of Lorraine before her body turns towards her. The witch grabs her by the locket and rips it off. Lorraine then tells Ed that she knows what she, Bathsheba, did. She possessed the mother to kill the child, Rory, and thusly is trying to do the same thing to Carolyn. That's what the bruises and the marks are and such. She's feeding off of her. She's feeding off of her energy. So we have the motive. Things then start to shake in the house and all the crosses start to fall. Nancy's hair then raises up and she gets thrown and dragged around the room telekinetically. Lorraine cuts her hair and stops it. We then see Roger, Carolyn, and the girls leaving. Ed tells them he'll get the footage developed, which is the evidence for the church to see, so that they can get an exorcist out there ASAP. Ed tells Roger he's not sure if Lorraine will be there though, because of all the toll it might take on her. Lorraine doesn't hear this because she'd be like, "Oh, I'll be there, bro." While sitting alone, Lorraine hears someone, perhaps her own child, say, "Mommy." She goes down to the dock where she sees a body float by. It's her child, Judy. The witch is trying to fuck with her. She rushes inside to call home to make sure Judy is okay. She's fine, but Lorraine has this vision of her in the water, which she takes as a warning from the witch. Roger and the family are shown arriving at a motel. We then see Ed and Lorraine Warren showing the footage to a priest at the church. He says, "You aren't kidding." He then says it's complicated though because the family aren't members of the church and that they need approval from the church. We then see images of Cindy with the ghost child behind her, so the father's like, "All right, I'll push it through." Back at the Warrens' house, Judy, their daughter, is asleep when we see her locket start to move and circle. Her mother's is doing the same at the Perone's house. Judy is then tugged like Christine at the beginning of the film. Judy gets up to see what the deal is. She calls out for her mom and dad. When she searches for them, we see the door to the evil antiques room is open. Judy calls out for dad. Pan over and we see that the Annabelle doll has been released from the cage. Then a darkness swallows the hallway. Judy runs away scared. We hear loud banging while in her dad's office over and over and over again before it suddenly stops. Then a blackness comes over the room. We see in the corner Bathsheba brushing the Annabelle doll's hair. And the doll turns around to look at Judy. Judy is screaming for her Nana to help. She looks back and the doll and Bathsheba are gone. Back in the car, Lorraine senses something is wrong. They arrive home where Ed busts through the door just as a chair is telekinetically thrown across the room. Ed checks the demon room and Annabelle is back in her case, just a smiling away. Lorraine kisses Judy and says everything is okay. Back at the motel, we see Roger arrive when the girl's telling that mom, Carolyn, just left all of a sudden with Christine and April out of nowhere. She just left without saying anything. I'm sure all is fine. We then see the two girls confused and in the car with Carolyn, and Carolyn seems a bit dazed. Roger calls Ed and Lorraine and tells them that the kids say that Carolyn smelled like rotten meat. Ed says to get back to the house, the Perone house, and that they'll meet them there. Lorraine and Ed argue for a minute about whether she's gonna go or not, and she's like, let's finish this together. Everyone arrives at the house. The cop, Ed, Lorraine, Roger. The cop shoots open the door, hilariously. We hear screaming and yelling and see Carolyn trying to stab Christine with a pair of scissors, but Roger is holding her off. Ed then rushes in to help. April, scared, runs and hides. They're trying to get Carolyn to the car to the priest for the exorcism, but the witch won't let her go and tugs her back inside and down to the cellar, throwing her around all the way. Christine is put into the car while Adam tries to find April. The others are down trying to help contain Carolyn. She's choking and biting and hurting everyone. She bites Officer Hamilton's face, like grossly. They tie Carolyn up while she continues to scream. They cuff her to a chair. They talk about getting Father Gordon out there, but that she won't make it in time. It's do or die time. It's Ed time. Ed's gonna do the exorcism. They've no better idea. They argue about Lorraine being there, but she replies, God brought us together for a reason. This is it. Then says, I'm gonna go get the book. You know, the good book. The Bible. Carolyn continues to scream and holler. Adam's looking for April to no avail. Carolyn's voice starts to change and distort. Ed opens up the Bible and begins the exorcism. Carolyn screams after some holy water is thrown on her. Everything shakes, including Ed, like he shook after that. We see Christine in the car as a bird flies into the window, breaking it. Adam is looking for April while birds start to fly into the house and windows, hard. Birds flying everywhere now, all over the place, including into the cellar window. Carolyn is shaking. They try to hold her down. Back to Adam searching for April. He hears her crying, but he can't locate her. In the cellar, Lorraine tells Carolyn not to give in, to fight it. She then coughs up blood. They're now fighting for her soul. Ed commands the witch to reveal herself, which she does, and she's scary as fuck looking. Everything shakes. Just then, everything stops, including Carolyn. Then she levitates slowly and the chair she's in turns upside down and starts banging on the roof. Ed commands the witch to put her down. She falls and the chair breaks. A bookshelf tries to take Ed out. Carolyn, the witch, starts to laugh psychotically. Roger demands for her to let her go. The witch replies, she's already gone. And now you're all gonna die. Just then she telekinetically raises the shotgun and aims at Ed, fires, but Officer Hamilton pushes him out of the way. Adam screams out that he found April, under the house, under the kitchen. This alerts Bathsheba that now is free and bolts towards that area of the house to get April. She grabs the scissors. She finds April. April screams. Roger and Ed try to reach for Carolyn. Ed then screams, Bathsheba, which gives him power over the witch/demon and finishes the exorcism by saying, by the power of God, I condemn you back to hell. Lorraine then puts her hand on Carolyn's head and says, this is your daughter. You can't give in. Roger calls for Carolyn to come back to them. Lorraine then reminds her of that day at the beach, which makes her cry and pulls her back from Bathsheba's grasp. She then vomits up Bathsheba's possession, signifying she's free. She looks up at April, who says, Mommy? She smiles and cries. Cut to black. Then we see them all walking out of the house. Carolyn's bruises heal in the sun. Roger says, it's over. Carolyn apologizes to April and says she loves her. They hug. Another cop arrives with the other daughters, and Ed and Lorraine Warren walk out of the house. Officer Hamilton sits down on the porch, clutching his face. Ed and Lorraine share a moment and a kiss. The family all hug, and April walks up to Lorraine and gives her her locket that she found that Judy gave to her earlier in the film. Everyone's crying and hugging and so in love and just then we see Ed and Lorraine coming home. We see Ed place the music box toy in his antique room. Lorraine tells Ed, the Vatican approved the exorcism. Ed's like, great timing, because they just did it. Ed closes the door to the room and we get a text card talking about how the devil exists and God exists and that our very destiny hinges on which one we follow. A quote by Ed Warren. We then hear the music box playing as the camera zooms in on the mirror and end. Cut to real pictures of both the Warren family and the Perone family. No mid-credits scene in this one, folks. Whew! So let's just get it out of the way, because I think we all see it coming. This one is not only one of the critics' more favorable flicks in the franchise, but it's one of my favorites as well. I give this a ranking of a real great, with 4 scaredy cows for atmosphere, great special effects, jump scares, and tension throughout the film. This one definitely holds a place in my heart. I remember when I first saw the witch hanging on the Conjuring tree, I thought that shot was so cool and so eerie. It wasn't anything too outrageous, too special, but again, it's not what this movie does, it's how it does it. From the hands coming from nowhere and clapping, to Bathsheba's look while she's levitating over Carolyn, there's just a ton of stuff in this film that's too good for it not to haunt your thoughts every now and then. Okay, that's it for me today, folks. Thank you, Corey and Joey, for being Patreon patrons. Everyone else, please follow suit. Like, share, and subscribe. See me next time, because I can't see you. Peace. Woo!
Everything that is inside me.